from the late 2000 onwards, television stations in the United States are now moving into digital broadcast, which is basically still transmitting it the same way, but with clearer quality of pictures. All right. So advantages of digital television, basically it's the setup and things like that. Alright, you have sharper images, brighter color quality, and higher quality audio. That is what improves with digital television. Alright, the format, the screening format, the aspect ratio, it's modeled after what we see in the cinemas, the actual film format. Right? So with the bars and all that. It also allows for high definition broadcast as well. When you record things on digital, things basically improves in terms of quality. And channels can be subdivided and multiple programs can be sent at the same time. Because everything is now digital, computerized, it made for easier broadcasts for the networks. These are benefits that digital has given to the TV industry. Right? Of course, online streaming, ever since the internet was introduced, like most industries, television was also experimenting with how to take advantage of this new platform, the internet. And mind you, in the early days, it was tough because all you have was basically the website for the television with images and details about when this TV program is going to be broadcast and things like that. Streaming videos was difficult because people were connected with dial-up. And you know how dial-up is, right? It is incredibly unstable, all right? And you're only connected, all right? The speed of your internet at that time would probably be just what, 2 KB or 5 KB. Yes, very, very, very slow. So imagine you try to stream video. How many of you are going by what, 10 megabytes right now? Imagine try to stream a video for 5 KB. Back then when I was using Napster, for me to download a 4 megabyte song took me 1.5 days. Oh my. Right? The struggle was real. Yes. Imagine one of my friends trying to download a 30-minute video clip.
80p.
1 week. 1 month was the download to complete. 1 30-minute video. And that is due to the fact that every time a phone call comes in, you are completely disconnected from the internet. Right? Yes, that's the dial-up internet age. Right? So be thankful that you have broadband, that you have Wi-Fi right now. Okay, so this is what we have today. Right? What broadcasters, how broadcasters are leveraging on the internet. So this is a snapshot of CBS.com, which is one of the largest networks of TV in America right now. So they even have the trailers for the shows for people to see. And the first episode of every new series, the pilot, is always uploaded on the website as well for people to watch the first episode so that they will catch the subsequent episodes eventually. So broadcasters' website today now offers a lot more. Of course, if you don't belong to the US, there are certain website areas that you cannot have access to because of it being region locked. Right? So on websites now there's high quality, high resolution streaming videos, more different types of content. There are also mini web series that ties in with the main series. All right, so these are usually fan-made or made by college students. So these are platforms in which they can also experiment, all right, up-and-coming directors, video, script writers, and things like that. That's how they also learn to improve on their craft, all right? So these are the platforms that they can use. All right, so other things, social media, all right, they're also very much connected to social media. There are even social media characters the characters of these TV shows, they even have social media accounts as well. All right? So local stations can still do more. All right? They can still take advantage of the internet more by providing more diverse content that ties in with whatever that they are producing. So local stations here, I'm referring to our local Malaysian stations. We can still do so much more. Right? So broadcasters with broadband internet really made it possible for streaming of video. That's basically the contribution of broadband internet. Right? Allowed for networks to also offer special interest programs, which is basically programs that is premium, meaning it's not going to be broadcast traditionally. If you want to see this premium program, you basically pay more and you watch it online. For that period of time, and after the expiry of your subscription, you will no longer have access to it. So those are what we call premium quality content. Alright? However, this kind of programming structure is very, very risky. And it's not profitable, and therefore, it's not risky, but it's not profitable, unfortunately. Because, honestly, if you, as consumers, why watch something extra, right, when you already have what is being shown is already sufficient, things like that. Now, this is something that made the viewing of television programs very interactive, very engaging for audiences. Just like how newspapers in Japan, they use the apps to make newspapers alive for kids. This is how television is doing it. It's using the same technology of augmented reality in order to make the TV viewing experience engaging for you. Alright? All you need is the app. One example was when AXN was screening Hannibal. Alright? So this is a screenshot of how it works. The Hannibal second screen is what they call it. So basically, as the TV show is being broadcast on TV, when there's a special button or something that appears on the screen, launch the app, connect it to the app, point your phone to the TV screen, the app would actually detect whatever that pops up on your TV screen, and you have additional features that pops up on your mobile screen. If you want to know what this character, more information about the background of this character, the back history, and so forth, it will all list out. And you want to know where this storyline goes, basically you navigate through the app. That is what we call the Hannibal second screen experience. Right? And of course, this only can happen when the program was broadcast live. It doesn't work when you record. Yeah? So news and television shows also have their own specific mobile apps for it. Broadcasters are now supplying content to mobile service providers. For example, how many of you here have Astro on the go on your mobile phone? Right? So some of you already have downloaded that service, and that's one example of how traditional and television broadcasters are coping with mobile technology. And of course, early days in the 80s when the audience have video cameras and all that, they were able to submit their own videos, right? And there are programs that calls for user-generated content, such as news programs, such as those programs like Caught on Camera, funniest videos and things like that, the world's most viral videos, all this kind of programming that is basically nonsensical programming that is just done in order to fill up the time slot is basically an example. Alright? So most television stations, if you have interesting programs or interesting content, most likely they will screen it. Most likely they will use it for their own purposes. Whether or not they will pay you depends on the stations. But when your content is used for news, generally they don't pay you. Right? But of course, if it involves celebrities and things like that, then programming that thrives on celebrity gossip, lifestyle, and things like that, they do pay for those exclusive content, right? Especially if it involves a famous public personality. Again, that is the culture that that bred the paparazzi movement. Right, social media, as I've mentioned, right? A lot of TV programs have their own social media networks and social media pages. You can get connected to the actors who play the characters. You can get connected to the director, to the studios that make these programs as well on social media. And interact with them. Share your feedback with how, what their character, how you feel about their characters and things like that. And of course, all this basically develops and strengthens your parasocial relationship with the fictional characters. Right? Do you still remember parasocial interaction? Right? How the phenomenon in which you feel so much for a fictional character that you get very emotional when something happens to them. You become so emotionally invested in this character. Right? So, for example, Game of Thrones, there are so many people that give feedback to Game of Thrones, especially when the dragon turns into a White Walker dragon and things like that. Sorry, spoiler there. Right? And things like that. So, and people became so emotional about how, one of the dragons died and things like that. So that's what we call parasocial interaction. And social media has basically spurred that even more. Right? Whenever a character dies, people go online and complain and bitch and cry and moan and whine about it. Right? So that is basically what happens. There are other ways that they also interact with audiences. Alright? How many of you know Yuri on Ice, the anime? Even until today, fans are actually stalking the creator, asking for a second season. Right? That show was over like 2 years ago, and still people are stalking her, sending her harassing messages, asking for a second season. Right? So it's crazy. Right? Social media has opened that hole for a lot of people to basically voice out their opinions to the content creators. Right, so this is why television has become such an impactful medium. Right? It is universal. It's everywhere. Now televisions are in your LRTs. Television is in your buses. Right? We have televisions everywhere in your house. Some cars, some vehicles have televisions in them, in the back seat, which is meant for the kids to be entertained. I really can't imagine how you can watch TV while driving. Right? It's like you're watching Game of Thrones and then the dragon turns into you know, and then you get into an accident. It's like, oh my gosh. In America, television is still the #1 mode of entertainment. Right? Due to the fact that a lot of programming is very much on television first before it moves into online. The number of people that subscribe to online streaming services like Netflix, Hulu is actually still lesser compared to live television programming and so forth. Right? So for example, and also, out of a lot of the media industries, television is among the most expensive. Right? It costs $3 million today to produce a 1-hour episode of a scripted show. For a 30-second advertising spot, can cost the advertisers anywhere between $200,000 to $1.5 million for just 30 seconds. That is how expensive television industry is. Right? But of course, this $3 million is really depending on whether there's visual effects or not. If your show has no visual effects at all, which is very rare for most TV programs today. If you have visual effects, even with the most minimal visual effects, can drive your production budget of $3 million to an average of anywhere between $10 million. Right? So the visual effects is what drives the budgets of a lot of productions. For example, Avengers, Infinity War, which is coming out next month, cost $300 million. The very first Avengers movie, which was Iron Man, the very first Iron Man movie cost $200 million. Right? So those are the kind of things. Not TV, of course, compared to the movie industry, is like cheaper. Still, to produce 1 hour will already cost $3 million. With visual effects, anywhere between 10 to 15 million. Game of Thrones, 1 episode costs 10 million, right, to produce. And those that are involving really hardcore makeup and visual effects and all that, overall budget, 15 to 20 million per episode. Right? And that's not inclusive of the salaries of the actors and the directors, which can go anywhere between $500,000 per episode to $1 million to $5 million as well. Right? So that's why the TV medium is a hugely expensive medium. Right? That's why we rely on sponsors from the corporates, from advertisers. Because without them, no TV. Right? What it means here by the audience continues to fragment, meaning that the audience population is no longer for the mass. It's no longer for general audiences. Most TV programs today are targeted. Just like the channel E Entertainment, you don't see 60-year-olds and grandmothers and grandfathers watching celebrity gossip and mostly for younger audiences, right? And the same thing, not all of us watch home and living channels. Not all of us watch gory action dramas and things like that, right? It's only for specific audiences. And not all of us watch cartoons, right? Some of us do, and some of us don't. So audiences are becoming more selective, more targeted, right? So that is what it means by the audience continues to fragment. breaking up. Alright, so looking at the industry itself, this is how they are modeled after. Alright, it's basically organized around how much they make on advertising, whether they are considered as commercial stations or non-commercial stations. What does this mean? Basically, if you have channels that has a lot of advertising, then that's a commercial station because they rely on commercial ads to survive. Non-commercial stations are usually those in which the channels are ad-free, right? No ads, like your HBO, and your HBO is mostly ad-free, right? You only have the Astro ads, which is the internal. Yeah? So those are what we call ad-free channels. Their main mode of revenue comes from other methods. And we have those that are based on markets, which is basically local television stations, which is for a particular community. And we have the networks. So these are the big 6 studios, networks that controls many, many different TV stations around America as well as the world. Right? So we have presence, all 6 of this have their presence in Asia as well. Right? Right, so and the third one is based on function. Right? Production, when it comes to production, is based on functions. We have local productions, which is done by the local network, local TV stations. We have network programs, which is done by networks, which is a collaboration of many different partners. And then we have syndicated programs, which are programs which are for sale for TV stations. Right? So like a lot of our programs that are shown in Malaysia, many of them are considered syndicated programs. What this means is basically these programs are put up for sale. If the TV station is interested and think that there are people in this country that will be interested in the TV show, they will pay to that network the rights to screen and broadcast that particular TV show. That is what it's called syndicated. Right? Just like we have comics that are syndicated, which means within our newspapers we have those comic section, right? So those comics, except for the ones that are local, all the international comics are syndicated. Meaning the newspaper companies pay in order to be given the right to publish that comic in their paper. Right? So it's the same thing with television stations as well. They buy a TV program, they buy for the whole season, and then they broadcast. And this is why it's so important for them to know how many people tune in. Because there are cases in which some channels, if they don't do their research on popularity of the program, when they buy the wrong program, they make a loss. Right? So that is very important. Distribution, all right, when it comes to the distribution of TV programs, a lot of TV networks have their own distribution channel. All right, they usually go through their own networks or through syndication companies, where they hire the syndicates to promote and distribute their shows to all the other countries. All right, so you can read this online. Then we have exhibition. Local stations, we have also a few different types. We have local stations that regularly produce their own programs. And we have local stations that rely on majority syndicated programs as well. All right, so that really depends on what kind of business model the TV stations builds around. This are basically information based on the American practice. So any TV stations which are not connected to the big six in America are usually called independents. The big six themselves call them as rebels because they refuse to partner with them. Independents are a small market, but usually they are also the ones that produce quality programming. So, as I mentioned, all these big, gigantic giants control basically 80% of television content in America. Right? All these 6 companies. In Asia, of course, because we have the dominance of Korean TV channels, Japanese TV channels, and China, as well as Taiwan, the programming that we receive is much more balanced. Alright, so producing television programs, if you are in a big city, if you are a TV station that's located in a city, in a big city in America, the TV station will usually have about 300 to 500 staff. In small towns and small cities in America, the TV size can be, the station size can be anywhere between 20, 30, or even 50 staff. Right? And that's how a typical sitcom or drama series can be revolved around. Most of your 30-minute sitcoms are shot in the studio. Alright? With all the different sets, where you have the living hall, the kitchen, and whatever space that is within the house. Alright? So they have the stage like this that models after what is inside the house, and they basically move within the set. Only for those external shots that is done. Even some external shots are also within the studio because they have lighting systems that emulates bright daylight and so forth. Every single episode of How I Met Your Mother was shot in studio. Alright, was never shot out of the studio. So this is basically the org chart of a TV station in all the different departments. Alright. And this is a video which is also on your Times, which basically takes you around a TV studio. What it looks like, what are the different functions. This is more for the news programming, TV news programming. Alright? So you can watch this video on your own. Okay, so prime time programming is 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. here in Malaysia. In the US, it's anywhere between 7:30 to 10:30. Alright, so a lot of these networks receive hundreds and hundreds of scripts for a different variety of shows. Some can be bestsellers, some can be totally horrible ideas which then get cancelled after 3 or 4 episodes. Yeah? So on an average year, each of these stations will have to come up with new ideas for their programs for the fall season as well as the summer season. Summer season they usually skip because most people go and watch movies during the summer blockbuster months. So they usually, when we talk about the TV season in the United States, we usually follow the spring season as well as the fall season, which is the autumn period, yeah? Which is usually September to November, as well as early February until June. Early February until May. Sorry. May is the start of the summer blockbuster month. Alright, so do you all watch any of these TV shows? What's the current popular TV show that you are watching now?
The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead, which is still not finished, which is still getting very draggy.
You guys still not yet died.
Yeah, people are still alive, even though the whole entire world seems to be zombified. Anyone? The new version of MacGyver.
What is it?
Which is
Daredevil.
crap.
Daredevil.
Daredevil, yes, that's on Netflix. Anyone?
Supernatural.
Lucifer, yes. That's also on Netflix. Anyone else? Stranger Things, that's also on Netflix. Yes, so most of us also watch our series on Netflix. Yeah. So I can't wait for Game of Thrones, which is going to come back next year. Right? This year they are taking a hiatus. For those of you who are into PR, into public relations and crisis management and all that, I do recommend watching Scandal. If you like political intrigue and see what is happening to Trump, it is very similar to what you can get in Scandal as well. Which
House
is,
of Cards.
but yeah, House of Cards also, yeah. But if you're watching Scandal, please be really, make sure you don't have a weak heart, because for some of these episodes, it really gives you a heart attack sometimes. And of course, The Simpsons today is one of the longest running adult animated shows. It's now going on for the 27th season. 27 years it's been running. Right. So TV industry, now despite the TV industry being on a decline since the internet age, it continues to be profitable. That's because they just continue increasing the expenditure of advertisers. They basically increase how much they charge advertisers for their ads. That's why they continue to be profitable. And advertisers continue to pay them because they still have the traditional mindset that people are tuning in to television, especially popular programs. Alright, so there are three types of advertisers that will buy up ad space. You have those that are national advertisers, which basically corporates that sell their products to everyone. These are the general ones. Then you have the national spot advertisers, which are basically regional companies that offer products only for specific users in particular areas. And of course, you have the local advertisers, which is within your community, your local community. Yeah? The most valued and important advertising period is the Super Bowl in the United States. Alright? In 2010, the average advertisement, a 30-second advertisement in 2010 was only $200,000 US dollars. 7 years later, the Super Bowl live telecast last year, CBS was charging $5 million per 30 seconds. NBC was charging $4.5 million per 30 seconds. So this is what I meant by the networks increasing their, continues to be profitable and increasing their revenue. And of course, TV shows also generate from sponsorship, product placement, and so forth. Okay, there's a link here to see the kind of advertisements that are on during last year's live Super Bowl. Right? In total, there were actually 50 different companies producing advertisements for that season. But here are the 10 best ones. Right, network programming, as I mentioned, it's very expensive to produce. Right. There's also a way for them to make money, which is through home video, which is your previous cassettes, rentals, and CDs. But all this is gradually dying out, except for the DVD market, which is still actually surviving, pretty surprisingly. Yeah? And how you measure the audiences. this is the formula of how they measure audiences. When we talk about ratings, the ratings for a program is basically how many people are watching the program divided by the total of TV households in the country, all right, or in the neighborhood, depending, or in the area, all right. So, example of the formula is here. Percentage of share is basically referring to how much market share does this program control in this area. Now, I know this is about mathematical equations and formulas, but this is what advertisers, those in advertising, need to know so that they can recognize and identify which programs to slot their advertisements in. Because the more popular the program, the higher the ratings, the more popular it is. The greater the share, what this basically means, the greater the number of audience. So as an advertiser, you are looking for all of these attributes. And as such, these formulas will be in your exam. Right? So make sure that you bookmark this. Right, so television audiences, as I've mentioned, very segmented. And watching TV is part of American life. Is it part of Asian life? Actually, not so much. Honestly, yeah, watching TV is not so much the Asian culture. What's more of an Asian culture?
Chef one.
Going to the mama, social life, nightlife, that's Asian culture. Street markets, that's Asian culture. Right? So this is some, but what is common throughout is that the number of audiences tuning in to TV is usually the highest during prime time. Right? That's why a lot of, and interestingly, people who are not so educated, as well as females, tend to be the main audiences for television. Right? That's in America now, of course. So, yeah, you can do this, on your own, because I've already uploaded it in times. Right, so I'll see your replies from that. You don't have to answer it here. Okay? So yeah, that's my summary, and that's the history of